What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and today we are going to try to find a replacement for this Luna that flies very far but actually has some stability to it, because I just don't think that this particular Luna, as pretty as it is it. And I'm tired of putting myself in terrible scenarios. So we've come to a hole that has exemplified that problem for me over and over again, and we're gonna hope that we don't have to use this retriever too much. But before we dive in, gotta ask the most important question of the day. How you doing today, Paul? You having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
So let's actually set the table here. I am someone who loves mold minimalization. I am a person that I really love how I can have one mold sort of fill a multitude of slots for me. And there's a disc that has been in my bag for a long time at this point. In fact, not only so long that it's been in my bag, but I love it so much that I actually have a tattoo of it, and that is the pig. Now the boon of the pig is that it only comes in base plastic, which means that the discs season in really fast. But that's allowed me to take pigs from being an overstable putt and approach disc to being a straight flyer with a little bit of fade, as well as a really understable version that's not so flippy that it just burns over, and that is Precious Child. 3 pigs that filled these slots. Now, in protest, because Innova just doesn't really seem to care about their audience, I have sort of moved that overstable approach pig and put it out of the bag, and I have a zone in that slot currently. But I still have 2 pigs, and they actually, as much as I love them, are creating a problem for me and trying to find what disc I want to fill this throwing putter slot. What I mean by that are there are holes where stepping up and throwing a mid-range is just way too much disc. And if I go soft on the mid-range and throwing it soft and not throwing a full committed shot, it often can lead to a mid-range getting squirrely. This looks like throwing a Mako 3 soft, and instead of getting a consistent stand up to flat, it just stays on hyzer, which is not gonna push the distance that I need it to push, and then I end up short while going up to a faster disc. Conversely, if I take an overstable disc that is a mid-range like my Glow Reactor and I throw it soft, it just gets even more overstable. You can see the issue here. I either put the juice on it and it goes too far, or I don't put enough juice on it and it doesn't give me the reliable flight that I'm looking for. So I would love to be able to throw a putter a little bit far and still get that push. Now, why can't I just throw my pigs in that slot? Well, that's an excellent question. Well, the thing is about the pigs is that the pigs are a putt and approach disc. So they're designed to be thrown on those approach distances, which means that they don't usually have a ton of glide that the putter offers. So for the sake of the video, I have this Luna in the bag. And this Luna, I can throw probably 20 to 30 feet at least farther than I can throw any of the pigs in my bag. And I think it's because it's not an overstable putt and approach disc, so it wants to glide. It wants to have that distance. The issue is that often, because it wants to glide, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of stability to it, which is where we just learned that flight numbers are a lie. And I'll tell you that it does not have that much fade, which is that last number in the flight numbers. Where this got highlighted on video for you guys is there footage of me playing a putter only round at New London. It was on hole 5 at New London. I'd made it to the corner and I was telling myself, I don't want to put it on a ton of hyzer because I don't want it to fade super far left. So I want to be able to basically just throw it flat and then have it fade on its own. And I did throw this Luna flat, and it didn't do, well, I guess it did Luna things. It just held really straight and went too straight and ended up going OB long. Now that was a bummer, but I don't live in Lynchburg, Virginia, so I'm not playing that hole very often. But whenever people come through Birmingham, I always send them to Inverness DGC. I love Inverness. I think it is our best course in town, and I do not think it is close between it and other courses. Because of that, I end up playing the shorts with people when they pass through town, and hole 6 of Inverness shorts is exactly what I want to use this putter for. But there's a problem. You got a blue basket 186 feet off to the left. You have a yellow basket up in the back corner that is 270 feet away from us here on the tee. The problem is that this creek runs along the whole right side of the fairway. So if you throw a disc and it goes too straight, guess where you end up, buddies and gentlemen? Guess where you end up, ladies and gentlemen? You end up in the water, which is OB, and now instead of looking at a birdie or even an easy par, you're taking probably a 4. Now ideally, this putter is gonna be exactly what I want to throw, because most often, if I'm trying to push my pig all the way back there at 270 feet, it has to be pretty high in order to fade in. It either wants to fade in too early because it's too overstable, so then I'm left with like a 35 or 40 footer short because you have to get into that grove to be inside the circle. Or the Luna, sometimes if I throw it on too much hyzer, I have to throw it on a pretty steep amount of hyzer in order to get it to push over in that corner. But if I throw it too hard, it's gonna stand up and it's gonna flip up and it's gonna ride straight into the creek or over the creek, and I'm taking that OB stroke. So I thought, what better place to test things than to come to this hole on this course where this disc gets used most often for me and creates the most heartache for me. And so I brought just an absolute host of options that I think are going to help me in being the solution. You guys threw out suggestions, friends threw out suggestions, the birdie fan threw out suggestions, and we're gonna throw them all. I've got 18 options. Hopefully the right one is inside this bag. Now, what are the options? Glad you asked. Well, the first is the most overstable run of Lunas that I actually know exists, because I really do love how the Luna flies, and it is the 2020 Tour Series Big Z Lunas. Got one of those. Unfortunately, they're pretty expensive, but the only reason this one's back on the list is because there's actually a run of them being made, and so I have ordered 2 more as backups just in case this wins. Next, I have an S-Line Tomb from Infinite. I have an AVR3 from Innova. I have a concrete tomb from Infinite. I have a Watt from MVP. I have a PA3. I have a Jawbreaker Zone. I have a Diamond Glow Wizard. I have a C-Line P2. I have a Cash made by Hooligan Discs, produced by Lone Star. I have an Ironstone, which is a P3X from Discmania. I have a Cash molded by Gateway Discs. I have a Gnome molded by Lone Star. I have a Chief OS molded by Gateway. I have a Houdini molded by Gateway. I have a AGL Madrone molded by Gateway. I have a Reptilian Scale molded by Gateway. And I have an Envy because it's the most classic throwing putter out there. Now we're gonna throw these on a varying amount of hyzers, but for reference, I wanna show you what this looks like or what this Luna has been doing for me. And hopefully it doesn't just fly perfect, because honestly, even if it does, that makes it even more annoying when it just doesn't do this. So you can see there that it wanted to stand up, but it didn't stand up. It just kind of like, well, I guess it did stand up, and it just sailed straight. And now it's OB, which makes a really tough setting for us to get the birdie on the hole. We really have like 3 tests that we want to try here, because I don't necessarily think this is a disc that I'm like trying to super hard anhyzer flex. So we're gonna throw all of the discs, we're gonna throw them on step 1, extreme hyzer. I'm gonna get over on it, and I'm just gonna throw big hyzers. Step 2, baby hyzers, and step 3, flat, and see what they do here. So what we're looking for, how a disc immediately fails this test, is if I throw it on extreme hyzer and it stands up to flat at all. That's bad. We're not here for that. So we're gonna go PA3. We're gonna kind of just rapid fire these and see what we can do. That's fine. That is exactly the hyzer we're looking for. The Watt. This one, I'm not gonna lie to you, very nervous on. Yep, that is not it, because that is OB. Unfortunately, Watt fans, not stable enough for what we're looking for. Fascinating. I think the wind really messed with me on that one. Okay, I like the S-Line Tomb a lot. I think I like the concrete a little more. I just knew that Luna was gonna be good. Like, I just knew it was gonna be good. That's a Plasma Envy, stable. No. What's funny is it says that's a 2201. Nico LaCastro made up all the flight numbers on those. Wrong. Okay, that disc is kind of filthy. That disc is really good. I like that. P3X. This and the Chief OS were probably the 2 I was most curious about. Okay, we got that one a little nose up, but not bad. Reptilian Scale feels a little closer to like a pig. Not as much glide as I'm looking for. Interesting. Now, Pete Collins showed up. Pete is the man. You've seen Pete. We love Pete. I have a Eldritch remix discs and a Detonator. New challengers enter the ring. We're gonna go Eldritch first. I bet this is the Praxis. Okay, the Eldridge is like kind of sick. That was good, just wrong line. I'm gonna go wider with this one. Okay, it's definitely more stable. We got 6 more, but we're gonna let some people play through. All right, Houdini. I think that the Houdini, from what I've heard from Gateway folks, this is much closer to a zone, so I don't expect this to hold. Yeah. Yeah. That didn't even get to the tree. Really excited for this one. This run's a little more stable. I'm excited to try the other cache. Yeah, it's definitely on the stable side. I think it's gonna season in, but we can't judge that too heavily. We're gonna go Sky God. And these are all pretty much landing in the same spot. Now we have the other cache. This is the proto cache, or this is a Lone Star made cache. These are way easier to find right now than the Gateway caches. Definitely not as overstable, but really good flyer. That's interesting. Diamond Glow Wizard, this is probably the rarest disc out of all of them. I know this guy's beefy. What's interesting on the Jawbreaker is I went with the Jawbreaker because that might be hypocritical on my Precious Child and Straight Pig conundrum, but I do think zones go farther than pigs. Okay, these 3 immediately out. I think the scale and the Houdini just a little too stable for what we're looking for, and the Watt, the opposite side. I think that this next test is really gonna highlight things for us. So we'll go ahead and do our next test, which is Baby Hyzer. We're gonna throw, instead of like head over the disc pulling like this, we're gonna be much more upright, throwing on natural hyzer instead of thinking about trying to throw flat. So we're gonna start with Chief OS. It's not good for the Luna, really straight. S-line tune was really good. I like that shot a lot. Okay, what's making me wonder here is that the PA3 and the zone, we may rethrow those because I think that I'm releasing them late and I'm pulling them a little bit. Yeah, you can see on these, I'm just pulling them, but that's still fought. That's so good. Okay. I'm not really coiling at all, which is probably resulting in some of these yanks. That's the P3X. P3X was really good. Nope. Okay, so I think the Trevor Staub cache is a little more stable than we're looking for this particular throwing spot. I actually don't think that one was thrown too poorly. I think the AVR3 is too straight. I mean, that was so far. That was a great shot. Just go so far. Really good. Envy's good. The Wizard Eye early released. The sneaky part about the Wizard is that I've early released it twice now, and it's still gone a considerable distance. So that's positives. Oh, and that is the negatives of a really deep throwing putter like the P2. Okay, the Madrone's kind of sneaky too. Concrete Tomb is just a little stable. Little stable. I think that's really going to shine on the next test. It's just going to be finding what angle is like, oh, it wants to push distance. Early released. And similar to the Wizard, really far. In terms of hand feel and just a little more stable than anticipated. Like I said, 2201, there's just no way. Adam from Galactus handed this one to me and was like, hey, it's not that. AVR 3, really, really solid. I think the AVR 3 is a great disc, just not for me in this slot. And then I think the zone, I'm just trying to season in other discs in my bag right now. And so I think the idea of mold mineralization to have a overstable zone and a straight zone is good, but then I think this would end up clashing with my straight pig a lot more. And I have a ton of straight pigs rather than seizing in a straight zone. I think that the Sky God 4, the C-Line P2, also gonna go ahead and get cut. It's just the deepest option of all the ones that we've thrown here so far. I just think with that deep of a putter, if I really try to give it the beans and get on it, I think that those shanks are gonna happen pretty regularly. And that just is gonna lower my confidence in the disc. The Luna and the Wizard, I've not thrown this Wizard well twice. I would say that if I throw it poorly again, probably getting cut. I've thrown this one really well. So far, there have been 3 discs that have landed inside the circle, basically parked, and it has been the Eldritch, the Luna, and the P3X, the Ironstone. If I were to cut one more, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the Madrone just because this is base plastic. I'm sure a premium plastic Madrone might be perfect for this. It's between the Chief OS and the Wizard. It's still tight between those two, which is like on the most of the cut line. But we'll see. Okay, so based on the previous flights, this is where I think that the water is gonna be the most in play. Okay, came out of my hands clean. This may be the fate of all of them. PA3 is looking real solid. That was a nice shot. Envy also fighting for his spot. Envy for sure in the finals. It's stacked on top of the PA3. Okay, Tomb pushing a little farther than its counterparts there. Okay, we pulled that cache way wider and it's up in there. That's really good for that cache. Uh-oh, came out really fast, came out really clean. Unfortunately, that doesn't help solve our issues. The Chief OS is really clean. Now for the 3 big dogs. Bad release, and still, bad release still ends up in the same money spot as all the other ones that are hanging on. P can't see this flight because it's red. Oh, got over on it. Unfair throw for the Eldritch. Yeah. Okay, so now is where we get to particulars because all of these were within like 5 feet of each other. So P3X already going to make it through because it landed in a good spot and it already has the lifeline of landing inside the circle. 2 other discs that landed inside the circle, Chief OS and the Trevor Staub cache. This one has been going really well for me, but it was a bad throw there. So I do invoke my right, continued in the conversation. The PA3 feels really good. I like the PA3. I like this plastic specifically. Unfortunately, I've tried a lot of other PA3s and this is the only run of PA3 that I've really enjoyed throwing. So because of that, I think it's too particular. And that's gonna feel really weird considering the next conversation that I'm about to have. But I'm gonna put that one to the side. Between these two, the S-Line Tomb, good. I like the concrete a little more. So we're trying to narrow it down. Unfortunately for me, the Envy, I know it's super popular. It's just not it for me. I don't know what it is about this disc. I never feel confident when I'm throwing an Envy. Even if it goes well, I just don't feel confident. So that one's going away, which leaves these 3. I'm invoking their rights of both being inside the circle. So that's good here. They push on, and unfortunately, the Wizard's out. That leaves us with 7, our top 7. So we're gonna throw these one more time, and we're gonna throw these, basically, has to be in circle 2, or it's being cut. I think that some of these discs are gonna be a little more moldable than others. And we'll talk about that as we're throwing them. Early released it. Okay. That's not good for a disc that was on the chopping block. Let's see if the other cache keeps a cache in the conversation. It's just so stable. It's so stable, and I think if I want that stability, I think I'm going to a different disc. I just really like how it easily stands up, but it still fades. I mean, that is under the bucket. Just a little bit of hyzer, and it does its job. See, the Luna has some stability to it. I just think the Luna can't be thrown flat. Okay, that was a little Anheuser. The tune goes pretty fast. It gets where it wants to go really quick. The hard part for the tune is that, you know what, I'll pull the S line out just to give it a fair chance. Because see there, I threw that one as flat as I felt and it faded. The other one I put a little bit of Anheuser on and it just never stood a chance. For that reason, I'm sorry, Wes. I don't think the tune's gonna be it. P3X. Okay, that one, early release, dropped the elbow. None of that went well. Okay, Chief OS. What did I just say about the Chief OS? Is that I wouldn't grip lock it, and then it just got grip locked. I'm sorry, Gateway. I'm sorry. So let's talk about it. Tombs. I'm sorry, Wes, not for me. I really do think it's a great disc. I think that if I didn't love my overstable putt and approach disc as much as I do, and if I didn't bag pigs, I think that these stand a very good fighting chance. I do think that the Chief OS, if I had this flight on a slightly deeper rim, man, the Chief OS would be it. And this is base plastic. This is glow base plastic. And the caches are also in trouble, just not necessarily for me. Which brings us to our final three, which is an overstable Luna, a Ironstone or P3X, and the Eldridge. Of course, before we throw them, I want to thank several people who helped make this video possible. I want to thank Foundation for providing a lot of discs, Adam from Galact Discs. I want to thank Nate. I want to thank Wes via Justin for the concrete tomb. And then P. Collins for, y'all, this wasn't even on the list. It ended up sneaking in. We're just going for solid shots here. And the Eldridge is in circle one again. Ironstone's over there with the Luna. Eldridge gets 1 point. That time we got a hold of it, and it's still trying to fade, just a little too late. Gonna be OB. The P3X is just a little more stable. It's definitely the most overstable of the three options we have here. Luna. And the Luna's just gonna gently fade up in there. And the Luna's grabbed a point. There it is. Flat, and it is up in the circle. Nope. Early released it. Ironstone may be walking away with a point. I think the same miss as last time. And it might have just gotten stuck in that tree. It's gonna be a tough point for the Eldridge if it's stuck in a tree. So the Ironstone is the more overstable of the three. Probably the hardest to get distance out of, but the most reliable fade. Probably the easiest to get distance out of, the least reliable fade, which means that I think we're gonna land with the Eldridge, which I think sits right in the middle. We saw at the end there, I kept smashing this and it was going really good. I just gotta put a little more hyzer on it, and I know it wants to fade because it tried to fade every single time. And none of those flights did it just hold straight and go, oh, I'm not gonna fade. So just a little bit of encouragement. I think the Eldridge and I are gonna get along just fine. So let me know in the comments, what do you think this is? Let me know if I did an injustice to any of them. I tried not to, but I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope you have an amazing start to your December, and I'm excited to have this Eldridge in the bag and see what we can do. Thanks to Pete for kind of coming out of nowhere with this. I mean, I think the P3X wins if the Eldridge doesn't. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're gonna leave you with the birdie.